Hey, what's going on, guys? It's HawksNest here, back with another Call of Duty mobile video. Now, before we actually go on with this video, I do want to let you guys know that this video is actually sponsored by Call of Duty Mobile. So, big thank you to Activision and COD Mobile for actually sponsoring today's video. But anyway, today's video is going to be covering the Cordite SMG, which is the brand new fully automatic submachine gun that was introduced into COD Mobile today. Now, currently there's two ways to actually obtain it. Number one is you can do a series of challenges inside of the seasonal challenges section of the game. And the other way is by getting it inside of the lucky draw. Now, because both of these methods are something that requires either time or money, I did want to actually show you guys whether or not the Cordite is a good SMG or not, and what my thoughts are on it compared to the other SMGs in the game, and whether or not I think it's the brand new best SMG. And to actually do that, we'll be looking at the specific stats on the gun, like the damage, the fire rate, the time to kill, the mobility, just kind of the upsides and the downsides of the weapon. And then I'll be showing you guys some gameplay as we actually talk about that stuff. And then at the very end, I'll let you guys know whether or not I think this is the new best SMG, as well as the best loadouts for this weapon, or best attachments and perks is what I actually meant. So make sure to drop a like and a sub on this video if you guys do enjoy. But without further ado, let's just go ahead and get right into the video. Okay, so for most of the video, I'm going to be comparing the Cordite to the PDW-57 as well as the RUS, because those are two very, very comparable SMGs. In the future, I plan on doing a video covering all of the SMGs and just covering all of their stats. But again, today we'll be looking at the PDW, the RUS versus the Cordite. So the very first thing we're going to look at is the damage and range profile. Okay, so the damage for the Cordite is going to be 24 damage from 0 to 8 meters, 22 damage from 9 to 19, 19 damage from 20 to 26, 18 damage from 27 to 33, and then 16 damage from 34 meters and above. If you guys are wondering how this compares to the PDW and RUS, I'll put all three on the screen right now so you guys can see it all side by side. We won't focus on this too much because obviously damage doesn't mean that much. What matters a little bit more is the damage plus the fire rate, which will give you your time to kill, essentially how fast the guns can actually kill. So we'll break down the ranges and compare these three guns a little bit more when we do actually get to time to kill. But again, here's the damages. I do want to mention that it is extremely similar to the RUS. It actually has a little bit longer range than the RUS, but in terms of the damage values, they're very similar with the 24, the 22, the 19, and the 16. Although for the Cordite, the 18 does sneak in there for a little while. Next up is the fire rate. Now, the fire rate for the Cordite is going to be 800 rounds per minute. The fire rate for the PDW is going to be 745, and the fire rate for the RUS is going to be 755. So as you can tell, the fastest of the three is actually the Cordite by a decent amount. It's not a whole lot faster. It's basically the exact same fire rate as the Type 25 if you guys were curious as to what it compares to. So as you can tell, solid damages with a very fast fire rate. So now that we know those two stats, let's go ahead and break down the time to kill of these weapons. So now on your screen, you can see the time to kill of all three weapons compared. As you can tell, once again, the Cordite and the RUS are going to be extremely similar, but for almost all ranges, the Cordite is slightly faster, and that's just because, again, they have basically identical damages, but the Cordite has a slightly faster fire rate, so you're going to be getting slightly faster time to kills. At close range, you get an 18 millisecond faster time to kill, and at long range, it's going to be a 27 millisecond time to kill. Now, this is basically non-existent. If you guys are wondering, it's about a 1 frame difference. If you guys were recording your screen or whatever, and you went frame by frame, it is about a 1 to 2 frame difference between the time to kill. So the RUS and Cordite are going to be killing in almost near identical times. And the PDW is a little bit more complex. We're not going to break that down too much, but as you can tell, it does mid-range have faster time to kills, but up close, the PDW does have a short range where it is actually faster, and then long range, it is slower than the Cordite. So as you can tell, the PDW is a little bit better close range in terms of time to kill, and then the Cordite kind of picks it up the farther it gets. Now, obviously, the time to kill is assuming that you can actually hit all of your shots, and hitting all of your shots is difficult if a gun has really bad or hard to manage recoil. So the next thing we're going to be looking at is the recoil of the three weapons. So here's the recoil for all three guns with no grip. Now the recoil on the Cordite might look really bad, but the good thing is it doesn't kick side to side a whole lot. So with no grip, it is actually somewhat manageable. We're going to look at the grip very soon because the grip is actually really good on the Cordite. But yeah, so here's the recoil compared to all three guns. As you can tell, the RUS doesn't go very high, but it does tend to have a little bit more side to side kick. The PDW it doesn't kick too much side to side, but it does bounce a lot. So it won't go like really far this way, but it'll just kind of jiggle a lot in the middle. And it also doesn't go super high. And then the Cordite it's tight, but it goes pretty high. In terms of the grip, this is what it looks like with the grip. And as you can tell, the Cordite gets really tight and it gets a lot shorter as well. So the recoil on the Cordite becomes very easy to manage. And the red recoil is the first 10 shots if you guys were curious. So as you can tell, first 10 shots are very tight, very easy to control. And then you can see the PDW has a little bit more bounce, and the RUS it doesn't have a whole lot of bounce, but what will happen is it'll go one way and kind of stick that way. So it does have that horizontal recoil that some people can manage and some people can't. Kind of just depends on what guns you're used to. If you're like an LK player, like LK24 player, you're probably gonna like the Cordite recoil a little bit more. And if you're like a KN44 or AK117 player, you're probably gonna like the RUS a little bit more. Personally, because I use like the HBR and the LK24 and guns that have a little bit more vertical recoil and not a lot of horizontal recoil, I like the Cordite recoil more than the RUS. Another bad thing about having higher vertical recoil is that when people shoot you, your gun is going to kick up a little bit more. So with the RUS, one nicer thing with that gun is when you're actually taking a gunfight and someone is shooting you, you're not going to flinch that much because it doesn't go that high, and that's just kind of how flinch works. Whereas with the Cordite having a little bit more vertical recoil, when you get shot at in a fight, your gun is going to kick up a little bit more. And I definitely noticed that while using this, but because I use guns that have high vertical recoil a lot, I'm actually pretty used to how this works. Which also means that the toughness perk is something that can be definitely used with the Cordite to a good effect. I wouldn't say it's absolutely required. I think if you throw a grip on this thing and you're already decent at controlling vertical recoil, you don't need toughness, but it definitely is going to be an option. So yeah, that's going to be the breakdown on the recoil. Next up is going to be the magazine. In terms of the magazine size, we have 40 and 48 for the Cordite, 50 and 58 for the PDW, and 36 and 44 for the RUS. And when I say and, which the bigger number is, that's going to be with a extended mag. In terms of the reload speed, I will just show you guys the reload speed on the screen right now. As you can tell, the Cordite is the fastest of the three weapons, although they're all extremely close. You're probably not going to notice a difference for the most part, but the Cordite is the fastest based on what I measured. I definitely think the Cordite has a nice happy medium with having a fast reload and a decent sized magazine. And when I say decent, I mean a 40 round mag is really big. You definitely don't need an extended mag with this, and also because the reload speed is pretty fast, a fast mag is not going to be required. It's useful, but I don't think it's necessarily required, because as I said before, I think a grip is really useful on this gun, so that's already one attachment slot kind of taken up. And the next thing we're going to be talking about will basically require the second attachment. And the next thing that we're going to be talking about is the ADS speed. Now, in terms of the ADS speed, I have like kind of struggles measuring this exactly and getting a number for you guys, but to actually show you what the ADS speed looks with this weapon, I can just show you guys a video that I recorded. And if you're wondering what ADS speed is, it's essentially how fast your gun actually ADS is. And here is a ADS speed of the Cordite compared to an ADS speed of the RUS. Now, it might look the same, but here's the catch. The Cordite had the quick draw attachment, which makes it so you ADS faster, and the RUS actually didn't. So as you can tell, the Cordite is slower, but you can actually make it the same by having a quick draw on the weapon. But if you did compare a quick draw Cordite to a quick draw RUS, the RUS is going to be quite a bit faster. So in my opinion, if you're playing with this gun quite aggressively and you're used to how fast SMGs ADS, I do think a quick draw is basically required. And I also want to mention that when you put sights on your gun, your ADS speed is actually lowered a little bit, so you won't be ADSing as fast. So if you do love using a red dot or a hollow or a tac scope or whatever, well, not a tac scope with SMGs, but if you do like using sights, a quick draw will be even more helpful. So I do think this is one thing that SMG players won't really like about the Cordite, is how it scopes in a little bit slower. And I also want to mention what this means too, is that if you use the ADS feature in the game where when you press the shoot button, it scopes in for you and then starts shooting as soon as you're fully scoped in, the Cordite won't be quite as good as like the RUS, because again, RUS is going to be scoping in faster, which means you can just shoot people faster. But if you do play with tapped ADS, which essentially means you tap the ADS button and you tap to shoot with separate fingers, which I do, you're going to like the Cordite a little bit more because you can start shooting before the gun is even scoped in. So scoping in doesn't matter that much. And another reason it actually doesn't matter that much is because the Cordite has an extremely tight hip fire. So even when your gun isn't fully scoped in and you're hip firing, quote unquote, it's still going to be a really nice little spread. And on your screen, you're going to be seeing a visual of the comparison of the Cordite and the RUS's hipfire, as well as a visual comparison of the Cordite and the PDWs. And if you're wondering if a laser sight actually helps the Cordite's hipfire, it doesn't. I did a test and the Cordite does not get any effect from the laser sight other than having the little laser beam on it, so I don't recommend this attachment at all. And the Cordite's hipfire is actually near identical to the PDW's hipfire with a laser sight, so that's just a good comparison. And the RUS's hipfire with a laser sight is a little bit wider, and that's mostly due in part to the fact that the RUS just kind of kicks to the side a little bit when you're hip firing. So as you can tell, the Cordite's hipfire is essentially a laser sight hipfire without actually having a laser sight, so that is another benefit of the weapon. Next up is the mobility of the Cordite, essentially how fast you're going to be moving, and it has a base sprint speed of 6.57, which, just to let you guys know, is the same as all of the other SMGs, so you're going to be sprinting at the same speed, except the other two SMGs that are different are the Pharaoh, which is a lot faster, and the GKS, which is a lot slower. But in terms of the SMGs we're talking about today, the RUS and the PDW, it's the same, as well as your movement speed when you're actually scoped in. That is the same as well at 3.28 meters per second. So the mobility is going to be a non-issue with this gun. It's going to be great. And if you're an AR player, it's going to feel really great because, again, SMGs are just a lot faster than ARs with their mobility. So that is one thing to keep in mind. If you're typically an AR player, the Cordite will feel quite a bit faster. Okay, so one of the most unique things about the Cordite is actually the headshot multiplier. All of the other SMGs have a headshot multiplier of 1.1, meaning when you actually shoot the head, you're going to be doing 1.1 times as much damage. So for example, if I shot someone in the body and did 100 damage, when I actually shoot them in the head, I'll do 110 damage. Now with the Cordite, it is actually 1.2 times as much. Now, this is actually kind of a big deal because at that first range from 0 to 9 meters, you can actually reduce your time to kill, so you can kill people faster if you actually just hit one headshot. Because one headshot will reduce your shots to kill from 5 to 4, and this will reduce your time to kill from 300 milliseconds, as I said before, to 225 milliseconds, which is stupidly fast. Now, obviously, from 0 to 9 meters, this might be kind of hard, but when you're actually able to hit that one headshot, you'll be able to kill people super fast. Like, this is incredibly fast. So again, this won't be super prominent because headshots aren't the easiest thing to do in the world, but it is only one headshot from 0 to 9 meters. So if you're able to hit it, it's nice. I wouldn't always recommend going for headshots. I'll just say let them happen naturally as you shoot. If you're hip firing and just one of the shots hits the head, that's going to be really nice. But once again, I don't really recommend going for them until you really master the recoil of this gun, because once again, it does kick up kind of high. So I'd maybe just aim for like the chest area most of the time, and if headshots happen, that's nice. And from 10 to 19 meters, you actually need 2 headshots to reduce your shots to kill from 5 to 4. So this will reduce your time to kill from 300 milliseconds to 225. So the exact same as before, but now you need 2 headshots from 10 to 19 meters. And then 20 to 26 meters, you need 2 headshots. 27 to 33, you need 3 headshots. And then 34 meters and above, you need 2 headshots. So again, most of the ranges, headshots will be pretty useful. So I wouldn't recommend going for them because it kicks hard, but headshots you will notice every once in a while that you'll kill someone a lot faster than you expected. And more than likely just because you got a couple headshots here and there. So this is kind of an added benefit of the Cordite. Again, not something that's going to happen a ton, but when it does, it's definitely a nice bonus. In terms of the iron sights of the Cordite, I personally don't love them. I think they are definitely usable. I think there's other iron sights that are better, but because I'm a red dot guy and I use red dots on basically any gun that I use, it's not really a big deal that the iron sights on the Cordite aren't amazing. But again, that's more of a personal preference. Just remember, when you actually have iron sights, you will scope in a little bit faster. So if you do want to scope in as fast as possible, leave the sights off of your gun. And another thing I didn't mention about this gun that isn't great is actually the sprint out speed. I don't fully understand sprint out speed, and that's why I didn't really mention it, because I'm still kind of testing. But Pathogenesis, another YouTuber that does stats, he tested it and he said it's very slow. And essentially what sprint out speed is going from your sprint to actually scoping in and shooting someone, because obviously when you're sprinting, it takes a little bit longer to ADS. And he said that speed is not great on this gun. And if you guys are wondering what perk or attachment can actually help you with this, the Agile perk will actually help a little bit. Which, when I was playing games, I actually tried the Agile perk, and I definitely think it was a solid option for this gun. It kind of depends on what your favorite perks are, but Agile definitely will be beneficial on this weapon. If you use ARs a lot, you probably won't even notice it though, because AR's sprint out speed is typically a lot slower than SMGs. But if you are an SMG player, you probably will notice that. So before we actually get into the recommended classes and my very final opinions on this weapon, let's talk about the positives, averages, and the negatives. So the positives of this weapon is the fire rate, the headshot multiplier, the hipfire. The recoil is kind of a positive. I can say it's more of an average actually, and then the mag size. And then the averages is, once again, the recoil kind of just depends on what recoil you're used to. The mobility is average, the reload speed is average, and the damage and ranges are for the most part pretty average. In terms of the negatives, it has a slow ADS speed and sprint out time, and the vertical recoil means that your aim punch is going to be a little bit tougher to manage. And once again, that just means when you're actually taking a face-to-face gunfight, your gun is going to kick up a little bit more as you get shot. So before I actually look at the 2 loadouts I do think that this gun is very solid. I think it will be used a lot in the meta. I don't know if I'd say it's better than the RUS. It's just a little bit different. It kind of depends on what kind of recoil you like, because outside of that, they're very similar. The Cordite will be killing faster than the RUS at pretty much all ranges, but once again, not by a lot. And the recoil is a little bit harder to manage when you're getting shot at, but because it is doesn't kick to the side very much, it's not going to be super difficult. If you like guns that kick up but don't kick to the side very much, you're going to like this gun probably more than the RUS. And if you like guns that kick to the side a little bit more but not very high, you're probably going to like the RUS more. And also, as I said before, if you use the ADS feature where when you press the shoot button, your gun actually scopes in and shoots all at the same time, you're probably not going to like this very much because it's a slow ADS speed. But if you're a person that hip fires a lot and also presses the aim and then shoot button, you're also going to like this gun quite a bit. Because once again, the tight hip fire makes it really easy to, number one, hip fire people, and it makes it so that as you're scoping in your gun, you can still hit your shots for the most part. Because the way that you actually transition from hip fire to being scoped in is this is your hip fire spread, and as you scope in, it tightens up until it's a laser beam. So if I had to give my personal opinion, I would say the Cordite is the best SMG, just in my opinion, based on versatility and everything I like in an SMG. But again, it will be based on a lot of personal preference, and hopefully I gave you guys all of the information you need to determine whether or not you want to use this SMG. But at the very least, I do actually seeing it being a pretty meta SMG that we will see in scrims and ranked play a decent amount. Now, in terms of the loadouts that I actually recommend, for the aggressive build, where you're going to be playing like hardpoint and domination and just being a little bit more aggressive, I guess, I would recommend a quick draw, number one, iron sight, so that you can get that really nice ADS speed, and then also a stock is solid, just so you can have really good movement while you're fighting people, and then a fast mag will do you good as well. And then in terms of perks, I think the only perks that really matter is I think Agile could be solid, or Flak Jacket if you're playing like hardpoint and you plan on being in the hardpoint a lot. It's good to have Flak Jacket. Lightweight could also work as well. It's kind of personal preference just based on what you like. If you have incredible movement, you probably won't need Agile, and you'll probably want Lightweight. And if you're playing a very objective-based role where you're going to be in the hardpoint a lot, Flak Jacket will do you good. In terms of a more versatile build, and this is the one I actually like a little bit more, a grip will do you really well, just to kind of reduce the recoil and make it work really well. And then iron sights or red dot, it's kind of up to you. And then quick draw, so you can get that faster ADS speed, and then long barrel as well, just so you can get a little bit more range and use this kind of like an AR with better mobility. And then also for your red perk, I would recommend Skulker, just so you can have that nice strafe speed when you're taking those mid-range fights, because once again, because the aim punch is kind of tough, you want to avoid getting hit, and if you can strafe side to side a lot, you're going to avoid getting hit, obviously. And a Skulker will actually help you do that. I made an entire video talking about Skulker and stock if you guys want to check that out. But yeah, so those are my recommended class loadouts if you guys were curious. And that is going to just about wrap it up for the video. If you guys want to find out more information on the Cordite and other SMGs and other guns in the game, you can check out my website, HawksNest.gg. But with all of that being said, hope you guys enjoyed. Make sure to drop a like and a sub down below if you guys did. Once again, thank you to COD Mobile for sponsoring this video, and I will see you guys later. Peace.